Welcome back. This week we talk about Tesla's continued rise, a stock split, and ark-invest. Stick around. First off, if you're like me and you hold Tesla in your portfolio, it's a weird time. You may see something like this. Honey, oh my gosh. We're rich. Look at this. Our portfolio jumped from 80,000 to 270. Wait a minute. I've got 100 shares of Tesla, which seems good, but the price, wait a minute. Let's take a look. Okay, let's see here. Oh, yes, that's right. The stock split. Just so to be 5-for-1 as of Friday, August 28th. Example. I see. This is what's going on. So the stock is in the process or has split, but the price still reflects as of Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if we divide the current balance by 5, which would be the split, now we're talking. So current balance for my portfolio, $94,497. That's okay, not quite rich. Okay, moving on. Next, I want to talk about something that's Tesla related, and that's ark-invest. Ark is someone that I had found as I was researching Tesla, because they're essentially a fund or a set of funds that invest in Tesla and technologies like Tesla, technology companies like Tesla. I thought it'd be fun today to go through the top 5 things to like about ark-invest. Let's go. First, let's just talk about Cathy Wood. Cathy is a longtime Tesla bull. What I like about Cathy, and essentially this is what brought me to ark-invest, was watching her and state her case and her conviction for Tesla and why everyone else in the market was wrong and that Tesla was going to be a huge breakout, and really just listing her case in a rational, calm way to anybody that would listen. Let's take a look at some of those past clips.
That's not possible. The R&D that these large auto companies are spending in the electric vehicle space swamps anything that Tesla could possibly do. Well, that misses the point that those R&D departments didn't get it right. They are still working with prismatic batteries. Tesla is riding down the cost curve of the consumer electronics industry. Small batteries. We would stay away from traditional auto companies. We think the auto world is going to move into luxury like Tesla, certainly electric, and shared autonomous vehicles. Shared autonomous vehicles are taking the sharing economy to another level. I might own what will become a shared autonomous vehicle. I'll say, okay, shared vehicle, take me to work. Well, I get into work at 7:30 or whatever. Take me to 7:30. Then go out and give other people rides. And it's a way for me to earn money off of this, what otherwise would be a stranded asset. In all the years up to 2014, there had only been, this is either 13 or 14, 40,000 human genomes sequenced ever. I think this year we're going to be up to close to 700,000, and we're going to continue at a 200% annualized rate. Again, in the robotic space, Amazon buys Kiva and goes from 1,000 robots in its warehouses at the beginning of last year to 15,000 at the end of last year. That rang the bell for us. Amazon leads the charge. All the other retailers are going to have to go there. So we think the robotics age is with us, and I think that Amazon is a $1 trillion stock. It's $240 billion right now. Jeff Bezos has said that Amazon Web Services will be bigger than the retail services at some point in the future. So right now, it's at a $7.5 billion run rate, Amazon Web Services. The retail is nearly $100 billion. That's a long way to go. What he doesn't tell you is this is going to be 4 to 5 times as profitable. So we're talking about a $240 billion cap company. I really believe Amazon owns infrastructure as a service. Others are trying to compete. Open source is trying to compete with OpenStack. There are probably going to be 2 players, but Amazon owns that space. This is a $1 trillion idea. I think people are missing that. And what they will, and you can talk about 100 PE. This is probably 200 PE. They've made very little money over the years because they've reinvested against these fantastic opportunities. And those companies who have not invested are not going to be the winners. The companies that have been invested, that have these enormous multiples seemingly right now, are going to be the winners.
What I like about Cathy is she's very gracious, very straightforward, and very relatable in the terms that she's talking about her investment criteria, her investment decision, and also the way she's leading ARK in saying, okay, here are the major areas that we're going to focus on for disruptive innovation. So start from the big picture and then work downward. Here's a good graphic for thinking about the different buckets and how they're thinking about innovation going forward. Artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, fintech technology, DNA sequencing, robotics, 3D printing. So what I like about this is it kind of breaks things into categories, and why I'm drawn to it is thinking about, okay, artificial intelligence being the next wave of disruptive technologies that 5-10 years from now will be deeply ingrained in our life. So the companies that are at the forefront of those are going to be the big winners. Autonomous vehicles, I think, kind of speak for themselves and really piggyback on a lot of artificial technology or artificial intelligence, and are hard to really put into words how big the change will be going forward. But I think that it's a technology within our reach now more than ever, and is going to come a lot faster than people think. Fintech technology, I don't know much about. I see that more as their version of Bitcoin, which I still don't really understand in terms of why that's a good value generation as composed to a company. They seem to invest in Square quite a bit. I don't know that much about Square right now. DNA sequencing with CRISPR and gene editing, it seems like a good investment for the next 10 years as companies leverage that technology and bring it to market in ways that are probably hard to see how they're going to affect illness going forward. And robotics and 3D printing seem like big automation changes that'll happen behind the scenes and in companies and businesses, but may not be sort of consumer facing as much going forward. But I like the categories, the thinking of, okay, let's not do everything. What are we interested in, and what am I personally interested in, and forget everything else and just kind of pull that thread. The next thing I appreciate about ark-invest is that they put a lot of their information online for free. So in this case, they publish white papers where they talk about each one of these categories and say, okay, how is this affecting companies today? Where is CRISPR? What does that mean? How do you understand it? Really, how is this going to disrupt things going forward for the next few years? So I enjoy it. The white papers they put out are well thought out, aren't overly fluffed with information that doesn't really matter. Also, they've got their podcast that they put out, so you can listen to a podcast when you're cleaning the house or doing something else, and kind of glean some interviews with founders like Elon Musk or people that are pushing the forefront in CRISPR technology, and hear directly from leadership in companies that they invest in, and they can talk about their view on the market directly. So there's unfiltered through any intermediaries. You can hear directly from the people they invest in themselves. One other thing that's neat about ARK is that they publish their holdings every day. So every day you can come out and see what their holdings are as a fund. They also let you subscribe for trades as the day goes on. So you can subscribe for news from the company, but they also will tell you what trade they made in the day, so you can see where they're trimming positions, adding to positions, and get more information pretty quickly about companies you might already be interested in. The next thing to like about ark-invest is Wright's Law. I hadn't remembered hearing about Wright's Law until Cathy started talking about it in earnest. And basically, Wright's Law is named after Theodore Paul Wright, who said that for every cumulative doubling of something made, the price will decrease by a certain percentage. So let's look at an example that they have posted around lithium-ion batteries and why. And essentially, this is what I think gave them the most conviction in Tesla. Because if you look at lithium-ion batteries, they've been mass-produced for, decades now, but the scale on which they're being produced has rapidly ramped up with the advent of electric vehicles. And the reason is that an electric car has 5,000 equivalent batteries that you have in one iPhone. So if just 1% of auto sales were to convert from gas to electric, they would more than double the demand. And here's a good way of looking at that cost curve, where you have the cost up here and then the amount of cumulative units being produced over here. So you can see clearly, like, as you produce more units, the cost declines, and that's the cumulative number of units being produced now for lithium-ion batteries has doubled and tripled and quadrupled. So the amount of batteries being produced has gone way up, and that's what's led the breakthroughs to the price going down in a linear fashion that will mean that there's better margins for Tesla, that they can, and not just Tesla. So that's the other thing, that as more batteries are produced, this will affect Tesla, but it'll also affect anybody using lithium-ion batteries and make that technology even more useful in ways like, let's say you have a drone that is delivering packages through the air, or let's say that you have a semi that's driven by lithium-ion batteries. So it starts opening up more and more use cases that then cause the cumulative doubling to start going faster and faster over time. The next part to like about ark-invest is the results. So why I'm looking at this is not necessarily to say, okay, this is going to be something I should invest in, but I'm really digging into how they think about things. So what I'm really trying to do is kind of reverse engineer how they're thinking about investments and make sure that it matches my own personal beliefs, and trying to leverage that in my own investments going forward. So what I've done here is put together some back testing of one of the ARK funds. ARK-K is the symbol, ARKK, and look back over the last 5 years versus QQQ, which is essentially another heavy-weighted tech fund, and then use the S&P 500 as a benchmark. So when you look at this, ARK has a almost 30% CAGR for the last 5 years, which is a really insane return QQQ is not bad at 20, and then the S&P 500 is right about 11%. So a pretty marked swing, especially in the last 3 years, as we've seen a big run up in tech. And the question I ask myself is like, well, is that really just a sign that there's a bubble in tech, and that a lot of this is going to be for naught in the next few years when maybe there's a correction and people pull back from tech? Or is it really just a sign of good thinking and decisions made a few years ago, and now they're reaping the benefits of those decisions and will be reaping the benefits of those decisions? What we've seen in this last downturn in the US is that companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google have outperformed the market as a whole because of their growth. And even in the face of a crisis, and granted, this is probably a key time to question, will that hold up forever or not? Is that really a change in behavior, or is it just a response to everyone being at home and watching more Netflix and searching more and doing the things that they have to do right now until they can start going out into the world in mass again? The last thing to like about ark-invest is the experience. And I started with Cathy, and I think it's appropriate to end with Cathy, because I think some of the times that we're living in now are formed, opinions are formed, and it's hard to know that without experience. If you've just started investing in the last 5 years, or only invested in Tesla in the last 5 years, I think it's very easy to think times are always going to be good. But I am old enough to remember the 2000s, and say the run up to the 2000s was very similar. There was a huge leap to technology. There was a lot of companies that were getting overvalued without sound financials in place, and without a lot of revenue. Just sort of the thought of people will come here, once you get eyeballs, that's all that really matters. And there was a devastating end to that story for many, many companies, and the investors along with them. So what I like about Cathy is I think she's got a good experience and can articulate some ideas of how things are different now, how companies that are truly innovating and disrupting now and have sound financials in place, and aren't just putting the cart before the horse and saying, well, if you build it, they will come. They're building it, and they're monetizing it, and then they're building more. They're not stopping. Today's growth leaders are saying, hey, instead of realizing all these profits, let's just keep growing. Let's get bigger and bigger at every turn. I think Cathy's got some unique perspectives, so let's see some of those.
So in the late 90s, if we had asked that question about most of these technologies, the answer would have been no. And yet investors were chasing them and valuing them on eyeballs and other such things. Today, they are happening. We're ready for prime time. And the fear I see out there when it comes to volatility or disruption or anything that's not in an index is palpable. That's the real opportunity. The dream was too early. Anyone who chased it got burned. Today, they're afraid. They should be moving into it. Nothing bothered us about what Elon was tweeting or anything until funding secured, which once we found out that was not true, we said, okay, that's not good. Disruptive innovation is characterized by controversy and volatility. Just let's take the electric vehicle. The Model S, 2012 it was launched. Yep. Not one of those competitors is anywhere near it. We're 7 years later. Now, let me take your other point. This trading around, this trading range, you as a trader and investor, but as a trader also, understand that when you build a base like that, one of two things is going to happen. It's either going to break down, and that's what a lot of the bears have been betting on, and they've been throwing everything at it, or it's going to break out. Clearly, we believe is going to break out. And the longer the base, you say 5 years, the longer the base, the bigger the breakout. So.
Okay, thank you for tuning in today. Please leave a like, that helps other people discover the show, and we'll see you next week.